He's like, I am the Tiger King. I've always been the Tiger King. You'd go in there, he'd go into the gift shop into his office at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and he'd just and he'd go around, he was sitting there playing this shot over and over of him in his throne. Joe's ego was so big.
Give me my whip.
Way too big for his little body.
Look into my eyes. No.
He would have done anything to become famous.
Do a reality show, you know, gay man owning a zoo, toting a gun. He said that'll sell for sure.
Hey, I'm Joe Exotic, otherwise known as the Tiger King, the gay gun-killing redneck with a mullet.
He was like a mythical character living out in the middle of bumfuck Oklahoma. 1,200 tigers and lions and bears and monkeys and shit. We're shooting the reality show in segments, and this morning.
Hey guys, it's 2:48 a.m. and I am making this video for you because I have just finished Tiger King and I am baffled, I am astounded, I am shocked, I am utterly in dire need of more. This show has enraptured me in a way that shows typically do not. Usually all I do is play video games with my life. I don't ever watch shows. Like, it's 1 in a million chance that you actually get me to sit down and watch a show and pay the fuck attention. This show did that. As I'm sure it did for many of you. Possibly the most interesting thing Netflix has to offer, considering we're all trapped in quarantine right now. So hi, my name's Kiba, and I'm here to talk about my thoughts on Tiger King. You know, I'm having a really hard time putting this man into words. Tiger King has it all, starting with Joe Exotic himself. There's a lot of words to describe Joe Exotic. Gay as fuck is the first word I would use, which makes him automatically pretty awesome. Has a mullet, has a gun, lots of guns, and has lots of tigers. Joe is really just like a train wreck that you can't look away from. He is really like crazy, and that's just like what draws people in, like, oh wow, look at this crazy motherfucker and his tigers, and he's always saying some crazy shit. The thing that stands out to me about Joe the most is his eyebrow piercing. I have a double eyebrow piercing, so, you know, that, like, I could, if I look up, I see it in my peripherals, but he just has that shit hanging in front of his eye. Like, and I'm like, bro, doesn't that bother you? But honestly, with all the crazy shit that's going on in his life, I see now that it's the least of his worries. So truly, do I think that Joe is a bad person? No. I think that he definitely started off as a good person with a big heart and big love for these animals and a want and a desire to protect them and to educate people. And you could really see in the first few episodes the bond he has with these tigers. Like, he's petting them like they're real cats. Like, it's amazing to watch. You know, the trust and the love that's there between him and his cats. It's really, like, is something beautiful. Like, you know, he has something special with them. Like, he's a special person. And, you know, the cats, they love him and they trust him. And he started off this whole zoo trying to do some good. And, you know, he made money off of cub petting and breeding and stuff like that and selling tigers. Now, cub petting is not abuse. It is probably the best thing for these cats in captivity, to be raised in a fashion where they're okay with being pet and being okay with being handled by people and meeting people. So that way they don't become aggressive and kill people. So also, making money off of it is not really a bad thing. Like, people need money. Like, he needs money to pay for all of the things to feed the tigers and take care of them. And yes, I know that he doesn't really take care of them that well, but I will go into that in, you know, later in the video. But, you know, like, he's just making money like everybody else. It's a way to make money, and cub petting is not abuse. It's not hurting the animal. Breeding, however, is kind of like a morally gray area. He makes a pretty damn valid point when, I don't remember if it was him or somebody on his team who said, you know, when you have an endangered species, why are you going to take out the people breeding them? You know, what do you do when a species is endangered? You make more. So on one end of the spectrum, he is doing good by bringing more of this animal into the world, by breeding them, by keeping this endangered species alive, and by taking care of them, and by selling them to zoos who are also taking care of them. Do I think it's morally correct to keep a tiger as a pet or to keep a tiger in a zoo at all? No, not really. Animals should always live free in the wild. I think it's pretty cruel to keep them in a cage their whole life. But, you know, a lot of people do that in their own homes with lots of animals. And, you know, nobody really bats an eye because, oh, it's a pet. Like, oh, it's like a pet rabbit or something. Oh, that's just my pet hamster. Yeah, like, he lives in a cage. Like, oh, we take him out of the cage for like 20 minutes a day to like walk around, and that's it. So, you know, it kind of is a morally gray area. People like to make the argument that, you know, those animals are smaller, but, you know, are they really happy? Anyway, it's definitely not a good idea to promote the sale of tigers as, you know, private pets, considering they're so large and dangerous. But come on, let's not lie. Who doesn't want a pet tiger? I totally would love a pet tiger if it was, like, realistic. But it's not really realistic, and Joe is quite the hypocrite because he says animals don't belong in a cage. When they're in a cage, their soul dies, and he has them all in cages. Yes, the cages are necessary for these animals to be kept in captivity, and again, like I said, it is very morally gray, considering the fact that humans have encroached on their territory so much that it remains pretty much impossible for more tigers to exist in the wild than they do in captivity, which is really sad because we don't live in a world where tigers can really roam free without people killing them, like literally people hunting them. And you know, there's just so many humans on this earth, and we've just torn down so much of their habitat. They don't really have anywhere to go now to live naturally. So it's like, would you rather keep this species alive in captivity or let it die out completely? There's about 4,000 tigers in the wilds and 10,000 tigers in captivity. That's just like not a lot of tigers total in the world. So yeah, it's totally wrong to keep them as a pet or in a zoo, but also we don't really live in a world where they can just live in the wild anymore. It's kind of sad. So Joe is doing kind of a good thing in a sense because he is breeding a lot of them and keeping them alive. You know, how many tigers has he made? You know, maybe there's like 1,000 tigers out there because of him. 1,000 more, which it's like for such a species that has such a small number, he did do a good thing. Now, I want to talk about Carol a little bit. You know, Carol Baskin, famous bitch who murdered her husband, obviously. Honestly, she's a bigger hypocrite than Joe, and she may be America's biggest cunt. Carol grew up having nothing. She was dirt poor, and then she met her husband, Don, whatever the fuck his name was, when she was really young, and married him when she was like 18 or 19. And he had bought her a whole bunch of cats, and she liked to pretend that they were rescues. Here she is posing with a cat, playing with it, having a great old time, yet she says that anybody who poses with a big cat, is a problem. She and her hypocrisy is the problem. She stands in front of a caged tiger and has the nerve to say that animals don't belong in cages. The epitome of the crazy cat lady that you hope just dies, honestly. Like, you're on Joe's side with this one. Like, she's a fucking nut. I have zero respect for this woman at all. She is totally fake. She is a sack of shit. She is selfish. And she wants to say that people shouldn't own tigers. But, you know, here she is with her 90 plus tigers that are literally just her pets. Oh, don't buy tigers. Don't support tigers being breeded in captivity. Tigers are not meant to be pets, but watch me play with my pet tigers. Only I can have them, 'cause I rescued them. I don't know what happened to my husband. He just disappeared, and the cops didn't do a very good job searching, so, oh god, I have no idea what happened to him. She likes to pretend that they're rescues, but literally her husband, Don, just bought them at auctions, and she liked to pretend that people were going to kill them and sell them for their pelts, and that she rescued them. But no, that's not really what happened. Her husband just bought her a bunch of pet tigers so she could play with them, because she's an asshole. And he was gonna divorce her, and she was gonna lose all her beautiful pet tigers and all the money that she had. So obviously she killed him. And Joe knows about it. He ain't stupid. So it starts as this back and forth feud between the two. You know, she's coming at him for doing the same things. The only thing that she is not doing is breeding them, which it's like, then what's the point of even having them? You're just keeping them as pets. You call it a sanctuary, but they're literally just your pets. Like, you bought them to play with them and to take care of them and to show them off to people. He's breeding them because he loves them and he's trying to keep them alive. And I'm not saying that he's a great person, but, you know, he started off as maybe a decent human being. I think really what happened is that, you know, he really loved the tigers and felt something pure and true to loving and protecting them. And then so many people saw this and made a spectacle of him, and he just really loved being the center of attention. And it kind of all just went to his head. You know, the money, the fame, everything. And I feel like just he needed to be this big thing that everybody could look at, and he loved it. He loved the attention. He loved every part of what he did. And then it became more and more about performing for the camera and less about actually paying attention to the animals, which are the only reason that he had anybody looking at him in the first place. Also, I think all the meth kind of definitely made him paranoid. And, you know, it kind of like rots your brain from the inside out. Your brain just kind of turns into a puddle of mush when you smoke meth. Like, if you've ever spoken to somebody who is on meth, they just don't really, like, listen to what you say. They flip really, like, every 5 seconds, like, from one end to the other of the spectrum. It's like, oh, what side of Joe am I gonna see today? Like, am I going to see the sweet Joe that loves the animals, or am I going to see the Joe that wants to party and doesn't give a fuck and wants to snap and shoot his gun at everything? And, like, not that, you know, shooting his gun was a terrible thing and making a scene is a terrible thing, but I think, you know, the paranoia consumes you, and the anger, you know, the snappiness, the very, like, you just see the way that he changed over time with all this pressure put on him, with all these lawsuits. You just kind of saw him changing as a person. And the drugs do that too. They kind of like I said, they melt your brain, but they also change you, who you are chemically, like your brain. So basically the message is, don't do drugs, because that shit literally permanently damages you psychologically, mentally, maybe even emotionally. I mean, Joe's husband talks about it in one of the episodes. He has like, what, 2 or 3 teeth, and he talks about how meth was basically the drug that they did the most. And he said it really fucked him up and it changed him. And he goes, you know, even now to this day, I still think I'm changed by it. And me, myself, as a person, Kiba, am a very strong believer that, you know, meth is one of those drugs that does really permanently alter your brain chemistry. And it does cause a lot of harm. It's very scary. It makes people very paranoid, very anxious. they don't really sleep, they don't really eat, they kind of forget about the world around them. And it kind of just like makes them depressed and suicidal, and it just like changes who they are totally as a person. So if Joe was doing these drugs, which, you know, he kind of admitted to, that on top of cocaine, on top of alcohol, which are all just not really great for your brain. Unfortunately, that combined with the immense pressure of the lawsuits, combined with worrying about taking care of his workers and animals, which, you know, I think maybe he forgot about that priority, but I feel like if I was him, that's what I'd be worrying about. You know, that and keeping his image and, you know, coming up with this money to just take care of things. And I don't know, he just kept putting on this image of just doing all these things, like running for governor and all these stupid things, like, oh, like, will it save him? Like, anything to pull him out of this financial bullshit? Like, no, it sounds like him becoming so famous like he wanted to be kind of just changed him. That and the drugs, all the combination of things destroyed this once really awesome man, maybe. Those kinds of things just, you know, they change people. And I'm not gonna blame the substances completely. Like, you know, people choose to get better and choose to be better people, and people choose to continue doing the shitty shit that they're doing. It's just very hard to get away from, and it's very sad because, once you do something, it changes you, and then there's no going back, and, you know, maybe you didn't realize that that was really going to change you. Also, I was just very disappointed in him when the whole thing went down with his other husband. Spoiler alert ahead. If you don't want things spoiled for you, don't continue any further, because this is a big thing. So I'm going to try to keep it brief because this video is getting very long, but his second husband, Travis, he shouldn't have brought him into a relationship at such a young age. When you're 19, you don't really know who you are. Like, when I was 19, I had no goals in life, no aspirations. I'd just gotten out of like a 5-year shitty ass relationship. You're still a baby, very, moldable, easily manipulated, and he was a silly little pothead, Joe took him on board and fed his addiction for meth, and, they were together only 4 years. So Travis had to be, 23, 24, which is really sad because that's exactly how old I am. I just turned 24 a few days ago. And, things seemed all fine and dandy, like he's shooting his gun, he's playing with his tigers, he's smoking his weed, he's having a good time. But then on the one episode, he's shown punching the truck, really angry and upset, being like, wow, Joe doesn't even listen to my problems. Like, he listens for 4 seconds and then that's it. Like, he doesn't really care about me. And, maybe that's how everybody around him felt because, he was so focused on being the center of attention, he forgot about the people and the animals around him that he cared for once. And then Travis up and killed himself. Maybe he was worried about the fact that Joe was changing and becoming a totally different person. The fact that he was also just not very gay. Joe gave these people a home, a life, tigers to play with, pretty much anything that they wanted, and they went along with it because they thought that's what would make them happy, but it wasn't really real love, Joe didn't maybe really know how to love. Or he did, just in his own fucked up way, where he just bought them nice things all the time. It's sad to see a person change like that because honestly, I see good in Joe. I see a lot of purity when I saw him with the animals, but then, as the show progressed, you see him with the animals less, and you see him with his husbands less, and just more me. He got so wrapped up in being the Tiger King and, becoming the face of everything that he just forgot who the fuck he was. And it was just totally disappointing to see him get married 2 months later. But, at the same time, sometimes I know a lot of people who that's their coping mechanism. Like, they have to be with somebody. And I guess Joe is just one of those people. He doesn't really know how to be alone. Like, his whole life falls apart if he doesn't have a lover by his side. Maybe Joe does have a lot of love in his heart and he just needs somebody that he can love and be affectionate towards. However, I think on his bad days, maybe he should have romped around his zoo and, played with his animals and had them make him feel better and be grateful for those beautiful animals that, he had. I could say a lot more, but it's almost 4 a.m. and I really gotta wrap this up. Thanks to anybody who actually listened through this hella long video. If you want me to talk about more, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.